Hi everyone, it is Christy Haig here, and I am going to show you today how to use a very cool tool that Photoshop Elements has called the Clone Stamp. It is this tool right here. It looks like an old stamp that you might use to, I don't know, decorate an envelope or stamp on crafting scrapbooks or whatever. When you click on the Clone Stamp tool here, you'll notice that there are two stamp options down here. We're going to work with the one on the left here called the Clone Stamp. Now what the Clone Stamp tool does, is basically it's going to take a section of your background and copy it over a section of your photo that you don't want. It can be used on small fixes, although I tend to find that this healing brush, the Band-Aid tool here, tends to work a lot quicker for small fixes. But the cool thing about the Clone Stamp is that it can actually be used for larger fixes. For example, I have this picture of my kids playing out in the backyard, and I was hoping to get a really fun shot of my boys who are taking turns pitching to each other for a scrapbook page, and I got a ton of very cool pictures of my daughter. But this was a picture that I wanted to use of my sons, and both for the sake of the coloring and just the busyness of the background, I wanted to get rid of my daughter here in the foreground. One thing that you're going to want to pay attention to in order to be able to use the Clone Stamp tool is that you want to have a fairly simple background. Now this, the background behind my daughter here is this grass with a bunch of leaves on it, and in some ways you wouldn't consider that simple, but it is sort of just a random repeating pattern that's the same all over. It looks very similar here as it does over here, as it does over here, so it's going to make for a very easy picture for me to clone stamp her out of. And so here's how this works. Just like when we used the spot healing brush, you will notice that there is a size slider, and that adjusts how big, when you hover over the picture, you see. And I tend to like sort of a medium level brush here. And I want to completely cover her, so I'm going to leave the opacity slider all the way up to 100%. So now I am going to color over her, but I have to first identify a spot on the picture where I want Photoshop Elements to pull the background image from. To do that, I'm going to hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to click on a section of the background here. Now I notice that I'm going to start coloring right here where there's a little bit of a leaf, so I'm going to click right next to a leaf over here. So I hold the Alt key down, it makes this little bullseye, and I click on my photograph right there. And then as I come over here, I can simply start drawing over top of my daughter, and you'll notice that it is just drawing grass and leaves in place of her. And you'll also notice that to the left, right where I had clicked, is a plus sign, which is where Photoshop Elements is taking the data for what the background should look like. Now, one of the things that I did, and I did this on purpose to show you, was that I ended up drawing higher in my picture than where I was taking the data from. So when I get to this point on the picture, I'm holding my mouse down and drawing, and it's not coloring over because the plus has disappeared off the bottom of the picture. Not a problem. All I need to do is go back and pick another location to start from. Alt, click, and then go back, and I can continue to draw over, paint over. I am just clicking and drawing, clicking and dragging my mouse around. Now you'll notice, let's go back and add that little piece again. You'll notice that all of a sudden I started drawing and it made part of her appear. That's because the data from where it was pulling it was such that I was getting her old golf club. So all you have to do is let go of the mouse and re-click again, and it will start afresh with the coloring over. So there you have it, and even if I zoom in, you'll notice that because the background is a pretty repetitive, this part looks the same as this part looks the same as that part, you can't even really see where the cloning took place. So a very simple and easy way as long as you have a background that works.